Should you be adding social emotional learning to your homeschool plans? Well, the short answer is yes. But maybe your question isn't really about the why. Maybe your question is more about the how. How can you add social emotional learning to your homeschool plans? Either way, I'm Emily from Table Life Blog, and today we're going to tackle both of those questions with some help from our sponsor, HeyKiddo. Here are 3 quick reasons you should include social emotional learning, or SEL, in your homeschool plans. Number 1, we educate the whole child. Now, I get it. The notion of educating the whole child can kind of be a homeschool cliche, right? The thing about that is it checks out in this case. It really does. We want to equip our kids with everything they need when it comes to living a full life and being a person in this world. So yes, we want to give them the skills they need for math and science, and we want them to know history and grammar and communication. All of those things are wonderful. They certainly have value. But guess what? It's really difficult to build a good foundation of those skills when you don't have the baseline, the real foundation of social emotional learning. That's why we need to be making room for this in our homeschool plans. We really miss out on an opportunity to give our kids a solid footing educationally and just when it comes to life when we don't start with the basics. And the basics, it turns out, really are social emotional skills. Number 2, these skills, these social emotional skills are needed now more than ever. Granted, there's always been a place for them in society. They've always been needed. But as a millennial, I really can't think of any prior generations that, in my opinion, were rocking it in this area. So we try to do better for our kids, right? That's why we need to be adding these skills and making them a regular part of our educational plans for them. On that note, I want to share a quick passage from a book I've been reading. It's called Prepared, and this specific passage was talking about critically needed work skills in the 1950s and then in 2020. And so what I want you to note when I read this is the vast difference between what employers wanted in the 50s and what they're really seeking from employees today. Okay. In the 1950s, the top skills employers wanted were, number 1, the ability to work rapidly and for long periods of time. Number 2, memory for details and directions. And number 3, arithmetic computation. So then the book goes on to cite something from Forbes, so an article from Forbes, and the employees of 2020 need, number 1, complex problem solving. Number 2, critical thinking. Number 3, creativity. Number 4, people management. Number 5, coordinating with others. And number 6, emotional intelligence. So, employers want innovative thinking, independence, and initiative. Those were not the coveted skills of our grandparents' generation. But if that's true for 2020, it's even more true for our kids as they grow and mature and prepare to enter this big world, right? Finally, we want to give our kids social emotional support because we know they're not necessarily going to pick it up on their own. These are not skills that always just come naturally to everyone. And that's why we want to make sure that we give them the tools they need. We equip them for the things to come. Okay, so I alluded to this in the last point, but there really aren't a lot of previous generations that seem to have done really well when it comes to social emotional learning. And my guess is that's because they didn't have the support they needed. They didn't have the tools. They didn't have teachers or parents or other adults in their lives coming alongside them and saying, hey, this matters. Let's spend some time on this. And that is why you don't see this abundance of critical thinking and empathy and, being able to face challenges and, self-awareness, all of these things that kind of are encompassed under the umbrella of social emotional learning. A lot of those things are lacking for a lot of people. The thing is we want better for our kids, and that's why we do want to provide them with the tools they need to be out in this world. So we do this because we educate the whole child. We do this because we know these are valuable skills, and we do this because they're not just going to learn them on their own. Okay, so now that you know the why, I also want you to know that the how doesn't have to be complicated. Our friends at HeyKiddo have made it super easy to add SEL to your homeschool lineup. They have given you everything you need through their HeyKiddo Huddle curriculum to add SEL to your homeschool on a regular basis, and you'll be blown away by how simple it is. I invite you to check out HeyKiddo through the link in the description. In closing, I am so grateful for the HeyKiddo team and all the work they are doing to equip parents and give our kids these incredibly valuable skills. Until next time, happy homeschooling.